Hi there, everyone. I thought I would talk today about a recent thing that I did, which is that I had a Naadi reading. I found this information about the Naadi reading through Craig Hamilton Parker. He's got a website on YouTube. He's got a YouTube site, I should say, and he talks about these Naadi readings. And so I'm sure you can go on YouTube and find him. And he also has a blog post that is intuitive information that's called Coffee with Craig. And so I like him. I think he's very accurate. He's very Buddhist. He does an astrological and an intuitive kind of forecast and reading, and he's crazy accurate, which I always find wonderful and refreshing, especially out there in blog world where there's a lot of charlatans and people that don't really know what they're doing. So anyway, he's an interesting person for you to check out. But I found his information about Naadi readings, and if you are interested, you're more than welcome to email me, and I will send you the links that I have given to others. That makes it a shortcut to find him, but I'm sure it's probably pretty easy to find him. So I listened to what he said about these Naadi readings, which are the Naadi are these leaves that are like a paper. So like they crush leaves and they put them on made them into paper. And if you know anything about Buddhist texts, they're usually in these long sheaves, bundles, and they have like cardboard or wood on the surface or bamboo on the surface and the bottom, and then in between, and they're wrapped, and then in between there are these sheets of paper leaves that have information on them. And so in the Buddhist tradition, you open the bundle and you pull the cover off, and then you read that prayer, and you pull that cover off, and then you read the next prayer, and you that's how you read these things. So anyway, I learned about them, and I went ahead and registered for it. And this process takes a long time. So I must have put them in last June, my request in last June, and it's $100 to have them find your leaves in the library and your bundles in the library. They require you to have your thumbprint that you actually have to send to them, and I realized in doing the reading that what they're looking at, just like I do palmistry, the thumbprint, they have a mapping technique that they use for the thumbprint and what that thumbprint means. And that's a way that they're sorting all these bundles. So it's $100 for them to find your bundles. And then you pay $400 for the reading, which lasts 3 hours. It's in India, and they have to have a Tamil translator because these leaves are written in Tamil. Now, if you know anything about the Indian languages, there's like 2,000 dialects. I mean, it's crazy. And Tamil is a dead language. It's an ancient language. So it's from 1,000+ years ago. So you have to have a specific guru that knows how to read the Tamil and then translate these leaves. So you basically put in the $100, and then it's $400 to have the 3-hour reading in India, which means it starts for me at 9:45 at night and goes until 1 in the morning. But you have to wait to see if they can find your leaves. Now, these have become more popular recently, and so what's happened is that there's more and more people, but there's more and more charlatans out there too. So my suggestion is to go through Hamilton Parker and listen to his videos and the person who he's connected to, and kind of go that direction, just so you don't kind of get taken for a ride, which always happens in some way, shape, and form. So, it's all about who you know and the connections of the people and who you know and the quality of people. So anyway, it takes 6 months for them to find your bundle. And so I put my name in, and I was waiting, and at the 6-month mark, I didn't hear from them. So I emailed them, and I said, they said if they don't find your bundles, then you will get a refund, right? So they said, no. We actually, 2 of our readers knew that they actually came across your bundles, but there are so many people looking that these bundles get pulled out for other people. So we have to, wait until those bundles are put back into the system, and then we'll find your bundles. So it took for me about 8.5 months, just so you know. And then I put together, the reading, and then I had the reading the other day. And because I am a sacred tool keeper, I'm always really curious about, how does one map the palm? How does one map numerology? How does one map astrology? How does one map tarot cards? So all of these things I think are intuitive maps, and that it's important to kind of understand how the map works in order to get validation with it. So what I found with this is that it's very much like palmistry. So what I'll say is, in palmistry, you have shapes of hands, and the shape of your hand determines your temperament. And then how lines are on your hand determine how you move in this life, or how your money's going to be, or how you're going to be in relationships, or how you're going to be with children, and all that kind of stuff. And what you see is that there are patterns of people. So just like you can have a drug addict, and a drug addict will embody certain qualities that are related to drug addiction, meaning that if you talk to any drug counselor, they will say drug addicts will lie. They will lie practically about anything and everything. And so, they have this avoidance technique that they don't want to be confronted, and they have these certain personalities that deflect the truth coming towards them and stuff. Same is true that you can get a person who is a old school, conservative, religious person, and that they will have a certain set of behaviors and patterns and ways that they move, that they don't take big risks. They like things very established and steady and consistent, and the tried and true, and they don't like newfangled things and stuff like that. So you see with people that there are these personality types that will slot into certain categories. Well, I give that as an example because the Naadi was really interesting. So you have one translator that for me was an Austrian woman that spoke really good English. Then you have the Tamil translator that is a gentleman who speaks English also very well, but he's translating the Tamil from the teacher or the guru, okay? And then that person is speaking. And, for me, I've just learned to, number one, not interrupt. When somebody is doing a reading, it's like I don't interject. I just listen and take in what is coming in. And so, what happens is that they basically go through a list. So, that you have this thing called a matching, list, a matching form. And so they have you fill this out, and they're asking questions such as, what's your official first name? How many letters are in that name? The day of your birth, the month of your birth, the year of your birth, if it's what day of the week it is, and if your name is like a sacred saint's name or a special name or something like that. And they go through your parents, so you do this with your mother and your father and your spouse and your siblings, and if you have children and all this kind of stuff. So you basically keep this form with you, because when they translate, they start with a leaf, and they're just going to say, does your name have 9 letters in it? And you're supposed to say correct or incorrect, right? And so in my case, it's incorrect, right? So you just say incorrect or correct. And then they start, if something is incorrect, they basically get rid of that entire leaf. Okay, so that entire leaf is not in the energy field. So, and then it gets really interesting, the more leaves you go through. So I went through an entire bundle, and it wasn't matching. And I thought, oh my God, we're going to the second bundle. What if nobody can find my bundle? What if I don't have a leaf, kind of thing. So we get 3/4 of the way through the second bundle. And you have to understand, by this point, I'm exhausted because they're asking all these questions. And it's like, I'd be like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. And they're like, well, if you don't know, it's a no. Do you know what I mean? So then they remove that leaf, right? So, but what happens is, as you keep going, you get more and more information that becomes accurate, till the point that all of a sudden, everything on the leaf is accurate. So it was weird. It was like, does your name have, 7 letters? Yes. Are you born on the 8th month? Yes. Are you born between the 16th and the 18th of that month? Yes. Are you born between 1960 and 1961? Yes. Are you, and suddenly it's like, is your mother's name 3 letters? Yes. Is your mother's name, does it sound like Ka, Kai, K? And I'm like, yes, K. Is it 3 letters? Yes. And so you basically keep going through it, and it's really weird. Like all of a sudden it's like, boom, 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 boom. And so, and then they start asking really weird questions like, like for me, I don't have any kids. Have you had any miscarriages? No. Have you had any pregnancies? No. Did you have a stillbirth? No. Do you have any children at all? No. So it's this whole thing that they keep going through. And all of a sudden you get a leaf that is basically your disposition or your archetype or whatever it is. And then they take a 25-minute pause, and then the teacher will go through the leaf in great detail, pull up, I think, also your Vedic astrology, come up with what they call your universal signature in this particular tradition, which they say if you go to India, you're going to need this universal address so that they know how to find you within those systems in India. And so what was really fascinating was that how many layers of detail you had to go through in order to get to all this information. And then they put together a reading for you. And it was really very enlightening and fascinating. Now, they warned me that they said you get the good, the bad, and the ugly. So what that means is that you're going to, find out when you're supposed to die, or when you're going to have major health problems, or when your mate is going to have major health problems. So that's kind of an unnerving kind of thing to a certain extent, but for me, it was really cool because I have been feeling in relationship to my book stuff that it's like I had to wait. Like everything has been like wait. Like my intuition was like wait. And sure enough, and I kept saying it's going to be May, it's going to be May, it's going to be May. And then here's this guy out of nowhere, who doesn't know me at all, and all I've been saying is correct or incorrect. He says, you aren't supposed to start this project related to communication and writing or blogging until the end of May. And, and I totally knew that. I looked at my own astrology. I knew that, everything in my gut was telling me that. So I was like, okay, well, there's great validation with that. And then he basically said from the end of May until the end of July 2027 is kind of like my heyday, which was great to hear because I thought, I really feel like my writing stuff and my book stuff is a good idea, but I wasn't getting any traction on it. But I've learned in life that you stop and wait on the will of heaven, and I also know with myself because of all of my energy in my chart that I tend to be a little ahead of the game. I tend to jump the gun a little bit. And so, I've had to learn patience and to wait. And they go into great detail about where you've been in past lives and why you have certain things in this life and why you have certain patterns. And then it was really fascinating that this guy, which this was a surprise to me, this guy basically said, this is your last life. And I was like, what? I kind of like Earth. I'm one of those people, like I deal with a lot of people that want out of here and they like Earth, they don't like Earth, but I was just like, I think this is great. I love this. I'm having a great time. And even with all the craziness happening in the world right now, it's like I feel super protected and very blessed. I feel like in my life, the universe has always oddly protected me. And you can see that in my chart too. And he said, oh yeah, no, this is your last life. And, even if you do the pujas and everything like that, the universe, when you are complete in giving the gifts that you agreed to give to the world at this time and the wisdom that you came to give to the world, you're going to go. Now, what was so weird about him saying that was that that's what the angels told me when I was 20. And they've continued to tell me that like over and over and over again. And when I'm channeling that, I'm supposed to give certain wisdoms, and I feel really compelled in this lifetime to share and give that, even if I don't get money from it, right? And so And that was another thing that he read in my chart. He said, this lifetime for you was not about money, and that when you are generous and give, and, give, free stuff away. Like I do my numerology, astrology, blogs, poetry. I give all that stuff away for free. I've been doing that for years. I did the Catalyst articles in Salt Lake City for 25, 30 years for free, never got paid for them. And then, people will call me, just like the other day, somebody called me and she said, oh, I called her back and I said, I saw you called, you didn't leave a message. And she said, oh, I realized I couldn't afford a reading with you. And so I just hung up and I didn't leave a message. And I said, well, just talk to me, just talk to me. And so when I feel like Spirit says, just help, just help. And if I have the time, I just try to help to the best of my ability. And my whole life has been that way. And so I've had people are like, you need to charge more. You need to do this. You need to do that. And every part of my body kept saying, no, that's not what this life is about. I didn't come into this life for the money thing. I came into this to be able to share this wisdom. And I felt that if I shared the wisdom with the people I was supposed to touch, that then I would go, then I would be able to go. So as a result, that's what the guru basically said. This is your last lifetime. You came in to give all this information. Your crown chakra is wide open. We don't see people with a crown chakra this open. You can channel tremendous truths and wisdom. Not that everybody's going to listen, of course, but you're supposed to give that energy out, and then you'll be done. And so what was interesting was that I found out that I might be done a little sooner than I thought I was going to be done. So that's one of the things they tell you. Now, I just kind of leave that as a flexible open. But what was fascinating about it was that I kind of always knew I wasn't going to like 85 or 90. I always knew that. And he talked about these dots that are on my finger, and that, my physical body dot. He says, your physical body is not strong, which I've always known. And that's why I eat so impeccably and do my meditation and do my walking and, try to not overdo things and all this kind of stuff. And he said that your spiritual energy is so strong that it keeps your body alive and it keeps your body going. And what's weird about that is that the acupuncturist, when I was 26, said, we've never seen anybody with worse kidney, liver, chi than you. We have 80-year-olds with better liver, kidney, chi than you, and you need to take these herbs for the rest of your life, which I have been doing religiously. And I've always known that. And they do my pulses, and they were like, you should be completely exhausted. You should be unable to do your day. And I'm like, I just let Spirit move through me. It's like I don't get in the way of it. And I recognized when I was a ballet dancer when I was young that I didn't have the physical energy or stamina to keep up with what the demands of my body were. And so I gave up trying to use my body, like push my body. And I recognized that what I needed to do was kind of like channel the force. And when I stayed open and I just let something else move through my body, then I could do everything. I could absolutely do everything, which was weird. But I've always known, that with my body, it was like the angel said to me, you need to retire from ballet now or you're going to die. Right. And it was like, okay. So I retired from ballet, and then they said, you can't do anything physical for 3 years or you're going to die. And so I didn't do anything physical for 3 years. And so I've been really good at listening all the way through. And that's what he said. He said that you are constantly channeling this huge amount of energy through your body that's from Spirit, and all this wisdom and all this truth that's constantly coming through. And that's your job, because you're done. You're basically going to be done. And but your physical body is going to poop out on you. And I remember an astrologer many years ago saying, you have an alien construct in your chart. You're not really human, and you're not really from here. And because of that, you're moving a ton more energy through your body than most people. And so because of that, you have to be very impeccable with your diet and your nutrition and your vitamins and stuff like that. And I've been doing all of that. So it was really interesting that this guy that was in India speaking Tamil, who doesn't know me from Adam, basically had all that same information that all these other people have been telling me. And then he said to me, that I was an acupuncturist or an oriental medicine healer in Japan in my last lifetime, which again makes total sense because I'm totally into Chinese herbs and medicine and tinctures and all that kind of stuff. And thank God it's the acupuncturists and the healers and the massage therapists and the body workers that honestly have kept me alive. I wouldn't be alive without these amazing healers. And so it was just a really fascinating kind of process. So I thought I would just put out a blog about it because it showed me the complexity and depth of another map that is not familiar to me, but because I'm sort of like a sacred tool keeper and I'm totally curious about all of the maps, I was reading the map as I was being read. And it was a very valid, interesting map. It was more complex and detail oriented than say palmistry per se. And it was definitely more personalized. And so at the end of the reading, they said, "Do you have any questions?" And I was like, "Nope. I think I'm good." And what was exciting for me is that I'm actually coming into my heyday. So I'm actually coming, and I remember a guru saying to me, when you're older, all of the challenges in your life are going to flip around completely. They're going to completely flip around, and everything will come to you that has been withheld from you. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever that is. So anyway, I thought I would talk to you about my reading, my Naadi palm leaf reading. And if you guys are interested, obviously you can email me, or you can just look up Craig Hamilton Parker on YouTube and his Naadi information about his Naadi readings, and there's videos right there. I'm sure you can find them. So thanks for listening. Bye.